Hi, my name is Bethany, and I'm a librarian with the Plano Public Library. I'm here with Eric Fife, who will be watching the Q&A and the chat. He's another staff member with the Plano Public Library.
Hello,
I'll be I'll be sharing resources at the Plano Public Library and beyond to help you with researching your African American ancestors. So our objectives today will be to a brief overview of the types of documents and records that you might search for in your genealogical research and what resources that you can use to search for these records. Most of the institutions and organizations that we'll be discussing, that I'll be talking about, are Texas specific, but there are some sources that are outside of Texas. Also, a note on terminology. Some of the terminology used in historical records may include certain words, terms, or phrases from the time period that individuals today may find offensive. The Plano Public Library does not endorse the language, imagery, attitudes, and/or perspectives presented in that content, but we provide it as a historical document. When possible, we will use phrases such as enslaved person to indicate that the condition of slavery was imposed upon the African American individuals being discussed. The terms African American, Africans, Blacks, people of color, and Negroes will be used interchangeably in this presentation as they were used in context of the source in the interest of keeping the source accurate and reflecting the terminology of the time period for that record. So first, a little bit about challenges that you might face in your research and some research tips. Challenges, circumstantial information versus hard documentation. So combine contracts, records, and other documents clustered around the time of emancipation to research genealogical connections. Has anyone watched Solving the Mysteries of Women in Your Family Tree program? That's another webinar that we offer. Just curious to see if anyone has watched it. The reason I ask is that a lot of the same creative thinking that goes into finding genealogical information about women in your family tree also applies in general to researching African American ancestry. If your ancestor was not a white male, it becomes a lot harder to find documentation pertaining to them, depending on the time period. So I don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat. So yes, just know that that is a challenge. If you are not a white male, you may not have been documented throughout history. Documentation not created or available at the time. This is another challenge. Since enslaved persons were considered property and not people during slavery, documents that you would typically use for family history research, such as birth certificates, marriage licenses, etc., may not exist. So this is just a reality. So a couple of research tips to get you started. Create a timeline. On this timeline include major historical events that would have affected your ancestor's life. Look up laws for the time period that you're researching. For example, 1867 voter registration. After the Civil War, part of the process for Confederate states to rejoin the Union was to affirm U.S. law. This included abolition of slavery and the voting rights of African American men. So 1867 is the first time that Black males of voting age in Texas are listed by first and last name. So what types of records might you look for when you're doing your research? Census records are really fantastic. Some key years are the 1870 census. This was the first time that freed Blacks were counted in the census. The 1850 and 1860 slave schedules. During this period from 1850 and 1860, the United States federal censuses, enslaved individuals were recorded separately in what were called slave schedules. These records have information about those individuals, including age, sex, color, but unfortunately, most omit personal names. This information can still be helpful because it might provide circumstantial connections between enslaved persons, slaveholders, the area, other things that you can grow out for more documentation, kind of widen your research circle. So it might be helpful to look at those records. Military records, those are also going to be important to your search. Types to look for are service records. These might be Union and Confederate records from the Civil War, military reconstruction rolls, adjutant general records. These are service record databases and reconstruction records and Civil War records. Other military records are pensions. So pension applications from African Americans who served in the Civil War. These were created after the war, but if you can find your ancestor listed in them, that's a great confirmation of where they lived and give you some idea of who else they might have known. Muster rolls, military reconstruction rolls. These are military rolls for the state police and state guard. Also education records, so scholastic censuses. Early lists provided information on students or heads of households. Later lists included listed students individually or with family, and they may include birth date, parents' names, school, grade, race, and in some cases, disabilities. So definitely check those out. Scholastic censuses included African American schools. And it also lists 75 years and older that are available. Newer lists will have information that are still redacted for privacy reasons. You should also check out teacher certification records. These can include the address, college of graduation, age, number of years as teacher. So give you more information about whether your ancestor worked as a teacher and other information about their life. Also check for annual report of school funds because this may list teachers' names and their pay. Of course, you aren't going to want to ignore court records. These do include marriage licenses, tax rolls, and voter registration. The Freedmen's Bureau, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a little minute, collected marriage records, and some of these are available online. Voter registration of 1867, as I mentioned before, is the first time that African American males were listed as voters using their full names. So you might find your ancestor listed in a voter registration after 1867. If you want more information on how to search court records, we do have a courthouse records program, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, and check that one out. Other records that you might want to take a look at, and that I will talk a little bit more about briefly later, are newspapers. Lots of articles that have details that you won't find any other place. So if you can find a newspaper article about your ancestor, you'll probably find out some really great details about them. Ship manifests and documentation from ports of entry. The act prohibiting importation of slaves was instituted in 1807. Federal law provided no new slaves were permitted to be imported into the United States after that took effect on January 1st, 1808. So this halted the international slave trade, but increased domestic slave trade. It helped regulate internal transportation by requiring a manifest of slaves when leaving or entering a port. So you might find your ancestor listed in one of these ship manifests. And you might also find immigration records from after the Civil War or during that Reconstruction period. You might also look at city directories. City directories were kind of like the precursor to the Yellow Pages, if you remember that, the Yellow Pages and the White Pages, telephone directories. So city directories offered a lot of detail about the city that the directory was for. These were very popular during the latter half of basically the 20th century. So you might find some really great details about where your ancestors live, what they did for a living, You might find churches in the area that your ancestor might have attended. Some of these city directories do list whites and blacks separately, so you can research and see where black neighborhoods were, what black schools were in that city. So definitely take some time to check out the city directories. And we do have a webinar on city directories that you can watch on our YouTube channel. Any questions so far? So let's take a look at the resources available to you at the Plano Public Library and elsewhere. So here at Plano Public Library in the Genealogy Center, of course, you will find books. If you've never visited us here, we're at 2501 Coit Road in Plano. The Genealogy Center is located on the basement level. We have many books relating to African American genealogy. There are general books regarding how to research your African American ancestors, as well as books on records from specific areas. For example, African American cemeteries in Hartford County, Maryland, or African American inhabitants of Rapid Parish, Louisiana, from June 1st to September 4th, 1870. Some of these books are very specific. You can search using keywords and filters to narrow your results down on our online catalog. So maybe Eric can put the catalog link into the chat. And just know that you can do a lot of research before you even come to the Genealogy Center by seeing what we have in the Genealogy Center before you come in. We also have microfilm. So we have lots of Collin County records on microfilm, tax rolls, voter registration, probate packets, marriage records. So if your family member, your ancestors grew up in Collin County, we may have some great information for you. Some other examples of what you might find on microfilm include records of the Superintendent of Education for the state of Texas, the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen and Abandoned Lands from 1865 to 1970, records of the Assistant Commissioner for the state of Texas, Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen and Abandoned Lands from 1865 to 1869. So we are happy to help you to get you going on the microfilm, show you how to use the microfilm reader, and maybe you'll find your ancestors somewhere in those records. We do have some great databases, some of which you have to be in the library to use, but some of them you can use from home using your Plano library card. There is some overlap in these databases. So for instance, Ancestry Library Edition is a very important database for genealogical research, and it has the bulk of records that you might use, but it is only accessible in the library. There's another database called Family Search, and you can use that from home. It's a free database that anyone can sign up for. And so, you might find yourself wanting to do some genealogical research at 9 o'clock at night when the library is closed. You can hop on to Family Search, and it does have some of the same records that Ancestry Library Edition has. So just keep that in mind. And we do have several, two newspaper databases that are available to you with your library card. And that is the Dallas Metro News Collection and Dallas Morning News Historical Archive. And most recently, newspapers.com Texas edition. We were really excited to get that. So if you have family that grew up and lived in Texas, this is going to be a great database for you to use. Heritage Quest Online is another database that you will have access to from home with your library card. So I'm going to move on. Oh, one last thing. While we do have an enormous amount of books and maps, physical materials in the Genealogy Center, they do not check out, they don't circulate. So just plan your visit, give yourself enough time to take a look at these materials while you're in the library. We have a book scanner, so you can scan materials on the book scanner. You can upload them to your cloud drive or save them to a flash drive and take them with you. We also have a copier, so if you just want to make a quick copy for your records, of course, the phone works great too. So just know that you won't be able to walk out the door with any of the books. So if you've never used Ancestry, it is an amazing database. The library has the library edition in library use only. This is an enormous database that has vital records, military records, wills, probate, land tax, and criminal records, city and area directories. I mentioned how great city directories are for learning about the area that your family member may have grown up in. Um, it also has newspaper clippings, maps, atlases, and gazetteers. And it also has a section on conducting African American family research using the database. So they have lots of great tips, and it can get you started. So definitely check that out when you're in the library. Does anyone already use Ancestry? It is you can subscribe to it. And many genealogists do. Many people who are doing their genealogy have a subscription. Just know that when you use the Ancestry Library Edition, you will not be able to edit your tree. So if you have a subscription, if you've made your tree public, you'll be able to see it on the Library Edition, but you will not be able to edit it. Oh, great. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so we've got some folks who are familiar with these two great tools. Wonderful. Well, definitely come in and try the library edition. You might find that it has what you need and that you no longer need to have your own subscription unless you want to be editing a tree. All right. So Heritage Quest Online. Heritage Quest does have a lot of duplicate information that you will find on Ancestry. Like it has the census records, city directories, military records, immigration records, wills and probate, even some maps. But one of the things that it has that might be hard to find in other databases online is the US serial set. These are congressional documents starting in 1817, and that includes the Freedmen's Bank records from 1865 to 1871. So you are able to access Heritage Quest online with your library card. You can do it in the library, obviously, if you're logged onto one of our computers, or you can access it from home. And if you have any um, questions about how to log in, just call the library and we'll walk you through it. All right. One thing I would like to mention before I talk about libraries is Family Search. As I mentioned before, it is a free, you just set up a profile. There's no cost for using Family Search, but they do ask that you sign up for it. The Plano Public Library is we have special privileges with we're a special tier for Family Search. So if you are using Family Search in the library, if you log in from any of our library computers, you will see more pictures than you would from home. So just keep that in mind. If you are at home using Family Search and it's not showing you the image of what's loaded in the database, come down to the library and you can log in and hopefully you'll be able to see it. We can't see everything, but you can see more. So keep that in mind. Okay, a little bit about some local libraries and what they have to offer you. So the Dallas Public Library has the Lloyd DeWitt Boxtruck Genealogy Collection. I believe it's on the 8th floor of the downtown Eric Johnson Central Library. And it's one of the largest and most comprehensive collections for family history research in the Southwest. So definitely worth a visit. If you live in Collin County, it's not too big a drive, and they have some amazing resources that you can use while you're there, even without having a library card with Dallas Public Library. You can also check their online calendar for genealogy programs, and you can view recent African American and Black genealogy book additions to their collection. So definitely recommend visiting their website and finding out what else you can learn at one of their programs. Also, the Houston Public Library, it's a little bit more of a drive, but you might find yourself in Houston visiting, and definitely it would be a great visit. So they offer free library cards to any permanent resident of Texas. So you could go and get a library card with them, and then that would give you access to their online offerings. The African American History Research Center is part of the Houston Public Library. Many of its resources can be accessed online. These resources include excellent research guides, journals and periodicals, programs like how we have this webinar, they offer them as well. They have an amazing oral history collection, and they have special collections that you can access online. So if you're in the area, check out the History Center's calendar for upcoming programs so that you can try and make it down there for one of their programs. Just a sample of recent programs includes using funeral programs as research sources, an ongoing research series on how to use the collections in your research, and how to use newspapers and newsletters for your research. So those would be really great programs to attend. Any questions? All right. So you may already belong to a genealogical society. They can offer you a lot of guidance, companionship as you're on this journey. It's always nice to talk to other people who are doing genealogical research and get tips from them and learn how they've gotten through a brick wall. So definitely recommend joining a genealogical society. In Dallas, the Dallas Genealogical Society has general meetings that often have topics pertinent to African American genealogy research. So check their calendar and see if they're offering any presentations or workshops coming up. They also host the African American Genealogical Special Interest Group. So this group discusses and explores areas of research that are unique to the African American community. So this would probably be a great group to be involved in, and it would give you lots of great learning opportunities and just other people to talk to about the challenges that you're facing. So the group discusses how to use a variety of resources, including census research, Reconstruction and Freedmen Bureau records, National Archives, military records, plantation slave records, slave schedules, and other records that provide information for this special area of genealogy research. Expert researchers and speakers are often making presentations as well, so definitely check their calendar. They offer hybrid meetings, so that's great. You don't necessarily have to drive down to Dallas. You can attend online, just like we're doing tonight. They have monthly meetings September through May, and the meetings are typically held on the third Saturday of each month. Or you could come in person to the Eric Johnson Central Library. So definitely give that a look. Another local genealogical society that you might want to check out, depending on where your ancestors lived here in Texas, is the Tarrant County Black Historical and Genealogical Society. This society's mission is to research, collect, and preserve and share the genealogy and history of African American contributions in Tarrant County, Texas, and beyond. It's a great way to connect with others who are working on African American genealogy, and you might find some additional resources that you didn't know about. So take a look. They also have a museum, so visit their website and you can visit in person. All right. Well, you might not know much about the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, but They fund a lot of the programs and materials that libraries in Texas use. And they also they host a lot of records on their website. So they have military and education records. They have an excellent African American genealogy guide, and they have a webinar that you can watch that kind of walks you through the resources that they have and how to access them. So, because while they do have quite a lot online, they have even more if you were to travel to Austin and visit in person. So the webinar would be very helpful to watch and get an idea of what's available down there. So the military records include service pensions, education records like the scholastic census I mentioned earlier. These, however, may not all be digitized. You may have to go to Austin to check them out. Um, the African American Genealogy Guide has links to the collection. Some of these documents, or I'm sorry, records that they have, you may actually find in Ancestry or Family Search. So as always, there's going to be some duplication of records in some of these big databases, but it's nice to know that this is something that you can access for free online. Some other resources. If you've never visited the National Archives and Records Association website, it's an amazing, they have great information on there. They do have the Freedmen's Bureau records. If you have not heard about the Freedmen's Bureau, it was instrumental in assisting African Americans during that period immediately following the Civil War. It helped provide food, shelter, clothing, medical services, and land to displaced Southerners, especially newly freed African Americans. It helped establish schools, supervised contracts between freedmen and ex-slavers, and managed confiscated or abandoned lands. It also helped former enslaved persons legalize marriages and locate lost relatives, and it assisted Black veterans. So it's a wealth of records. Not all of these records are going to be indexed, so you may have to go through areas that will, you may have to just work your way page by page, but there's a lot of information in these Bureau records. So definitely take a look at that. And NARA's African American Heritage Collection also holds a wealth of materials documenting the Black experience, including online resources, programming, and traditional and social media. So, highly recommend that you check out those resources at the National Archives. And the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress offers extensive resources about African Americans, including special collections, digital archives, um, in-person and online exhibitions, manuscripts, oral histories, photographs, sound recordings, and government documents. Just a couple highlights that I pulled. They have Born in Slavery, the slave narratives from the Federal Writers Project from 1936 to 1938. This was the Writers Project that contains more than 2,300 first-person accounts of slavery from enslaved people who survived and lived through that period. And it also includes 500 black and white photographs of former slaves. These narratives were collected in the 30s as part of the Federal Writers Project of the Works Progress Administration, which was later renamed the Work Projects, well, the WPA. That's how you might know it. So that's a pretty interesting collection to look at. The African American Studies collection includes specialized research guides that offer a starting point for studying different topics within African American history and culture. And the African American Odyssey, A Quest for Full Citizenship, is an online exhibition that covers slavery through civil rights. So highly recommend that you check out both the National Archives and the Library of Congress online. Any questions so far? Oh, another
It looks
great
like,
Uh-huh.
looks like Sharon shared a resource with us.
Black Pearls of Genealogy. That sounds great. We will definitely check that out. We will add it to our presentation. Thank you for sharing that. Lastly, I'm just going to touch on newspapers and newspaper-oriented projects online. So newspapers, as I mentioned before, often had information that you won't find anywhere else because it was first-person accounts of events that were happening. Um, you might find the names of enslaved persons, the names of the enslavers, the location where they were living, physical descriptions of the people, and the relationship to other family members. So that's why newspapers are going to be a really great resource. The Texas Runaway Slave Project, which is created and maintained through the Stephen F. Austin State University, is a database of runaway slave advertisements, articles, and notices from newspapers published in Texas, as well as materials from court records, manuscript collections, and books. It documents more than 2,500 fugitive slaves from Texas. So you might find your ancestor listed in there. Take a look. The Southwestern Christian Advocates Lost Friends column. This was a newspaper published in New Orleans that was distributed to nearly 500 preachers, 800 post offices, and more than 4,000 subscribers in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas. And the purpose of the Lost Friends notices, which ran well into the first decade of the 20th century, featured messages from individuals searching for loved ones lost in slavery. So this searchable database provides access to more than 2,500 advertisements that appeared in The Advocate between November 1879 and December 1900. So definitely worth taking a look. Um, Lost Friends. Found good things on that site. Good to hear. Last Seen, Finding Family After Slavery. This is similar to the Lost Friends column database. The Last Seen Project searches African American newspapers from 1865 to 1920 to identify, digitize, transcribe, and publish ads placed in newspapers across the U.S. and beyond by formerly enslaved peoples searching for family members and loved ones after emancipation. So check that one out. If you haven't visited the portal to Texas history, um, please do. It has over 1,700 digitized newspapers, and you can explore and find more articles. You search for your family members' names and see what turns up. The Portals to Texas History is created and maintained by the University of North Texas, and it is one of the largest collections of digitized newspapers for Texas. So check that out. And I had mentioned newspapers.com Texas edition. That is a new database that the Plano Library recently subscribed to. And as I said before, we're excited about it. You can search for family members in that database. But newspapers.com has a separate free database that you can access online called Enslaved People in the Newspapers. And this database is a collection of newspaper articles and advertisements about enslaved people in America. And it may include names, ages, descriptions, and information about the enslaved people or their attempts to escape. And it may contain information about the individuals who enslaved people. So sometimes that's also very important information so that it can help direct you to locations where your ancestor might live. Do we need to be at the library? No, you don't have to be at the newspapers.com. Texas edition is something you can access from home with your library card. And this particular database, which I'm so sorry, I realize it's not on the slide. But it is on the handout. The enslaved people in the newspapers. That is an online access. You don't need a library card to access it. And this database, the enslaved people in the newspapers, was built using advanced technology to analyze all of these different newspaper pages that were on newspaper.com. And it's amazing that they've provided it for free because the newspaper.com subscription is pretty hefty. So definitely check that out. All right. Oh, sorry. I guess I had some little This is an example of a clipping from the Lost Friends project. So pretty interesting. And that takes us to, that is the end of the African American genealogy resources portion of the program. And now I'm just going to cover a little bit about our monthly programs, including those provided by our partners, the Genealogy Friends of the Plano Public Library, the Daughters of the American Revolution, and the Collin County Genealogical Society. And then hang on for just a little bit more, and I can tell you about some upcoming programs that we're going to be doing online, just like this one. So the Genealogy Friends of Plano Library, the Collin County Genealogical Society, and the Daughters of the American Revolution are three groups that are dedicated to genealogy in Collin County that offer their support to the Plano Public Library. The library partners with them on programs and classes. You can join these organizations, or you can attend their free programs that they offer at the library to learn more research strategies, find about new resources, and to meet other people who are doing this kind of research. The Genealogy Friends of the Plano Public Library offers 2 in-person genealogy programs at the library. They offer the DNA Forum, where you can come and discuss and explore the use of DNA in your genealogy research, and research at the library. So the research at the library is just kind of a general overview of doing genealogy, and they're there to help you if you've hit a brick wall with your research or would just like a little bit of extra guidance. So the DNA Forum upcoming programs are Tuesday, October 14th, Tuesday, November 11th, and Tuesday, December 9th. And those are all at 7 p.m. And by the way, all of these programs you will find on our online calendar, on the library's calendar. Research at the library is held on Saturday, November 8th at 10:30 a.m. The Daughters of the American Revolution can help teach you steps to start your application for joining the Daughters of the American Revolution, but they're also there just to offer assistance on genealogy research. So if you're interested, their next program is going to be Saturday, October 18th at 10:30. And by the way, if it's an in-person program, it's going to be happening at Haggard Library. And the Collin County Genealogical Society hosts free monthly educational programs at the library. These can be attended in person or virtually. And you can see what's coming up next on their 2024-2025 program meeting schedule. So check out their website, the Genealogy Technology Forum. They will be doing that on Saturday, November 22nd at 11 a.m. here at Haggard. And yes, Eric just posted a link to our library calendar. If you've never used the calendar before, you can narrow it to genealogy and then set the dates that you'd like to search for, and it will return any genealogy related programs that are going to be happening at the library. So take a look at that. Call us if you're having any issues with it. And just a little bit about this full slate of programs coming up that the library is providing. Our programs are always Tuesdays at 7 p.m. So our next program is going to be the family book. You can learn tips and tricks for creating a manuscript of your family history. What a great thing to share with other members of your family. So definitely come to that and learn some more. On October 17th, we're really excited. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear you're excited about a family book class. It's a great one. Um, on October 17th, that's a Friday, actually. I know it says Tuesdays at 7, but I happen to know the genealogy lock-in. Sorry, folks, that is a Friday, October 17th. The genealogy lock-in is a great event. We join with other libraries across Texas and Oklahoma to host webinars throughout that day that center on genealogy research. So you don't have to have a library card to sign up for this. Registration will open for it in about 2 weeks, 2 weeks prior to the event. So we're coming up on that. Just check our online calendar. You register, you can come to Haggard and watch the presentations from our genealogy program room, or you can just register and we'll send you a link that's good for that day. So you can watch a lot of really great professional genealogists sharing their knowledge. October 28th, we're going to be talking about family search. We'll show you basic site navigation and tools that you can use. Forgot to mention Family Search has fantastic wiki pages on African American research. So definitely check out Family Search or attend this program to learn more. And then on November 18th, we're doing Scouting Military Records, where you can learn about databases, books, and other sources for searching military records. And on December 16th, we're going to be doing city directories, one of my favorites. You can learn a wealth of information that can be found in city directories, learn where to access them online, and tips for how to use them to do your genealogy research. So other genealogy resources that you should know about, you can, as I've talked a little bit about, you can view past program recordings on our YouTube channel. And you can also request Ask PPL Genealogy appointment. So that is a form you fill out online, and you can kind of tell us what your genealogy need is, and we'll meet with you for like a 30-minute appointment here at the at Haggard Library and see if we can help find some resources for you. So any other questions, y'all? If you find that you do have a question, or if you have comments about tonight's programs or suggestions, please email our team at genealogy@plano.gov. We'd love to hear from you. Glad that you came tonight. Excited that you're going to be attending some of our upcoming programs. Hope to see you at the genealogy lock-in. Yeah, any last questions? Well, you've got our email, so you can always catch up with us. Uh, Thank you so much for attending. Please go to planolibrary.org to see what else the library has for you. And have a great evening. And this concludes our program.